Hey guys, welcome to the 8th video in the Writing and Language lecture series. So today the topic is going to be transition words and commonly confused words. So just an overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. Transition words, these are usually conjunctive adverbs such as however, in addition, and for example. These are all key to creating a logical, well-structured passage. And questions focusing on transition words and phrases, they're just going to test your ability to choose the right one to match the correct meaning or tone of the passage and to make it as coherent as possible. So a secondary topic that I'm going to be talking about today is commonly confused words. So these are words such as than and then, than versus then. So these have similar spellings or meanings, and yeah, it's just going to focus on your ability to tell them apart and use the correct word. So with that said, transition words. Each SAT will feature around 3 to 5 of these questions. There's generally more of them, so I'd say 4 to 5 is what you're most likely going to see. So these questions will present a transition word or phrase within the passage. These are generally at the beginning of the sentence, and the sentence that they're in is pretty much always not the first sentence in the paragraph. So it'll give you one option to keep the transition the same, or 3 options to replace it with any of 3 other transitions. So the best and only clue really to help you solve these problems is to find the purpose of the transition. So some examples are to contradict, emphasize, or to present an example. So usually there's only going to be one choice that matches the correct purpose, and yeah, that's the one that should be chosen. So here are some examples of transition words and their purposes. For example, provides an example supporting the previous sentence, then the correct transition should be something along the lines of such as, namely, or for example. So look, that's the illustration purpose in this chart. So this chart is not going to have all the purposes or transitions, but these are pretty much the main ones. So similarly, if the sentence after the transition provides an idea that was presented before, then the transition should have the purpose of addition right here. And some examples are furthermore, also, and yeah, pretty much it. So here's an example question. Reforestation efforts, while undeniably valuable, often result in forests with limited biodiversity. However, care should be taken to plant a wide variety of native flora in depleted woodlands. So I'm just going to look at the main idea of each sentence. This first sentence talks about reforestation efforts, and it presents one problem that they have, which is they limit biodiversity. The second sentence talks about how when you're planting, you know, plants in depleted woodlands, which is what reforestation is, you should be careful to plant a wide variety. So the first one presents the problem of limited biodiversity, and then the second one talks about how because that's a problem, you should be careful while embarking on these reforestation efforts. So my guess right here is that the transition word should present like a cause and effect relationship. The cause is that reforestation can limit biodiversity. The effect is when you're replanting depleted woodlands, you should be careful to increase biodiversity. So the one that best matches the idea of cause and effect, kind of um, yeah, just presenting a solution to a problem mentioned earlier is be accordingly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So frequently confused words. The SAT writing section will have several of these questions, um, and they can be confusing because of similar meaning, spelling, or pronunciation. So there's like an indefinite amount of, you know, like words that they can use in these problems, but they generally use the same ones. And this list of examples here, these are pretty much the main ones that the SAT uses. So, for example, then versus than, effect versus effect, accept versus accept, Yeah. Fewer versus less, much versus many, and yeah, you get the picture. So there's no formula for solving these questions. You just have to, understand the differences between each one. Um, Definitely look at these main ones that I gave, but you should also take like a bunch of practice tests and look for these problems because these can be tricky. So, for some of the common ones, here are some differences that can help you. So, than versus then. Than is what you use in comparisons, so hotter than the sun, and then is it presents a sequence. So like a person ate, then cleaned the table, and then yeah. So I have all these examples here. Just read through those. These are the most common ones I'd say, but yeah, just read more and get used to these. So process of elimination also helps a lot. It helps a lot for most writing questions, but these ones especially since there's no, rule to solve these. So here's an example then versus then. With 2,297 RBIs in his major league career, baseball legend Hank Aaron batted in more runs than any player in history. So if you remember, I talked about the two then and just the differences. So then with an E is sequence, and then with an A is comparison. So we can see here that it should be comparing, because it's comparing Hank Aaron and his 2,297 RBIs, which if you don't know is just a statistic. Yeah. So it's comparing him to all other players. So it's then with an A. So we can check either B or D, and the comment B is unnecessary. The correct answer is D. So yeah, it's on his phones. Just use these ones. Thanks for